Hey scrappers and recyclers, it's Shark Scrapper. We just picked up well, it's not a full truckload, but you know, a load of boards. Now most of these are the low grade stuff. I did some separating while I was at the yard, a cursory quick separation. So those are all motherboards. These are Goldfinger cards and decent peripherals, those kind of things. And then in here we have hard drives. There's a couple hard drive caddies, but that's all hard drives down in there. So we're gonna go do a little more detailed scrub of that truckload of low grade and get things sorted out. Now, just in case you missed it, this is where these boards came from. You can see they weren't exactly being taken care of all that well. First thing I want to do is check this Goldfinger card peripheral kind of bin. See, I don't know how that got in there. All right, and there's another hard drive. Doesn't belong here. So here's a nice Goldfinger card. We'll have to unscrew this and see what we're dealing with, but that clearly belongs in here. There's another one like that. Some nice big MLCCs on here. That's a pretty classic Goldfinger card, slot card that we're used to seeing coming out of PCs. And you'll want to check the prices at boardsort.com. You can sell it like this, but you don't make a whole lot of money. If you remove the heatsink, that's one way to sell it. Heatsink, fan motors, so that you just have the board with the bracket. That is another category. And then you can also remove the bracket. That's where you're going to get your most bang for your buck. However, I recently found, and you'll see a video of mine where it actually turns out that if you factor in the time spent to take all the stuff off, removing the heat sinks but leaving the bracket on is the more efficient from a return on investment for your time way of looking at it. Piece of copper. So these can be sold. These are the finger strip cords, English Sharky. So these are the finger strip boards from LCD flat screen TVs. These can be sold as peripheral high grade. Don't get really excited. That gold that you see there is ENIG. It's very, very thin, but it's there. People like scrapping Irish get really excited. Here's some more slot cards. So yeah, they all go in there. Wow. That's a big looking RAM, isn't it? Man. There's another one. HP. There's a nice old, this would definitely be a high grade peripheral. I gotta think a little more. And these are just a lot of ICs jammed onto this, but definitely a high grade peripheral. I wonder what else we might get away with. Slot card, more of those RAM. That was a graphics card, so yeah, slot card. I seriously doubt that any of this stuff is good for resale. It's been out in the weather for a long time. That's an interesting board. Very well populated with ICs. There's a socket mounted IC, big old crystal oscillator if you're into silver. That's got to come off. That's a battery. Gold plated pins. Yeah, some nice stuff on that one. Peripheral high grade. That's be another peripheral high grade card. And then we have a couple of CPUs. We have a pinless CPU here. And this is P4 with pins. You can see the pretty gold pins. M card. Brown, a lot of ICs, green on the other side, but it's got a lacquer kind of coating on it. So it's going to be a low grade board because of especially because of the lacquer back here. You might have gotten away with mid grade if it didn't have the lacquer, but most places the price is the same for mids and lows these days. You could take off this little bit of wire. That's a jumper wire from engineer making a design error. You can pull off these ICs if you want to sell the ICs separately. That's another low grade board. You can pull that transformer if your yard will buy these as small copper bearing motors or transformers. That is a speaker, so that's probably a brass disc in there if you want to go after that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these with boards that I might want to do some more processing on before I package them up. I've got quite a few low-grade boards right now. So one bin will be boards that I might do some more processing on. The other bin will be just getting sold as is. I gotta figure out how that daughter card comes off there. Right, I'm gonna put that in the process bin because that daughter card might be sold as more than high grade. Excuse me, more than low grade. Yeah, peripheral board, wire, another low grade. No work to be done on that. And I have to get some more bins here. I want to keep the peripherals. I want to keep some of these other things separate. This is just number 3 insulated copper wire. Now, this is a low-grade board, obviously. Got some nice toroids here if you want to pull the copper off. And these copper coils, they usually are pretty easy to bust off. Put them on a screwdriver, and then you can just pull the copper off real easy. So these were the LED lights from a flat screen TV, and this is a copper strip back here. I had a video a while back where I showed you how to pull that copper off. Let's see here if this one will let us do it. Yeah, it looks like it, maybe. And it's not very thick on this one, so it's not coming off that well, but you can see how that copper can come off, and then you can put that in with your number 2 copper. If it'll peel, some of them it'll peel off like a nice strip, and you can put that in with your number 2 copper. At a minimum, you can throw it in with your low-grade boards. It's not brown. It's got a few ICs and MOSFETs, but boy, it's just got so much junk on it. Low grade. It's the only problem with doing this on my tailgate. Stuff falls down, and then I'm fishing it out, or I got to try to lift the gate and let it fall out. Another low grade, but we'll pull that IC. Yeah, in fact, let's see, wait a minute. Yeah, we'll just put that in the bin to process some more. And low grade, low grade, low grade. Junky ribbon wire, but there is gold on the finger part of it, so I can cut that and put that in with the little gold pieces that I might process later on. I think I'm going to put that in there. There's some of the cardboard from the box that these were in. You think something burned up on that one? Yeah, something did not go well there, did it? Yeah. Now these older resistors, some folks report finding that they are gold plated on the inside. I've looked in several now and I've never found one, but doesn't mean that they aren't there. It just means I haven't found one. Let go. All right, now that's actually a very nice board. A whole bunch of socket mounted ICs. So we can pull the ICs and then it's just going to be a low grade board because they're all socket mounted. And once you pull them all off, then, well, you've got just a low grade board. Or you could leave them all on and go peripheral high grade. And then we have an oscillator there that has no gold on it. And I'm going to put it there for the time being. A whole bunch of low grade stuff here. Now that is a tin silver. Still a low grade board, but it just looks more interesting because of the tin silver on it. Now there's some ICs, socket mounted ICs that can come out. So I'm going to put that in the bin to do a little more processing on it. And some more ICs here. So this will be the bin for processing. Ooh, we saw one like that already. Oh, and I should have put it with the other one. Oh, that's what happens sometimes. Low grade, low grade. It's going to take forever, isn't it? Well, when I'm talking to you, it slows down. When I'm just doing this by myself, I just whip right through it. More low grade stuff. There's a bunch of, well, there's 3 ICs there and MOSFETs that could come off of that. So, wonder what you think. What do you think that was? See the size there? It's got some nice chips on it. Some sort of satellite looking connection. Here's another one of those low grades that has the copper that you can get real easy. And it's running away from me. Huh. Well, tiny little thing. There's a light there. It came out of some sort of camera or light or something, I don't know. Some more ICs on that one. Ah, Radio Shack. That was a pin board. Isn't that interesting? That's a peripheral at least. Ah, low grade. Low grade. Oh, dip switches and ICs. So I might pull those. Sometimes the dip switches can have teeny tiny little gold or silver BBs in them, or at least plated. Some people really like to go after those. Stuff with hung up on wire. More wire. Huh, there's a loose IC. Put you in there. See, this is why I redo the sort, because when I'm at the yard, I'm kind of just grabbing stuff and only the obvious things get separated. So I gotta be a little more careful when I'm, that's gonna go in the peripherals. Yeah, interesting. Low grade, but it's interesting. Hey y'all, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you? How you doing?
Doing all right.
Got anything cool back there? Yeah.
I got all kinds of cool stuff.
That
is way cooler than I thought it was going to be, I'm not going to lie.
Motherboard load. Mother load.
Those guys walk around the complex every now and then, and if the door's open, they'll poke their head in and see what I've got and chat with me about stuff. Oh, copper wire. Yeah, that's not covered with shellac. So we have a socket mounted IC, we have dip switches here, lots of ICs all over, a lot of little epoxy coated tantalum capacitors. So we can definitely use, put this in with our peripherals. I might cut off this little junky section here, and that would definitely allow peripheral high grade. Bunch of little ICs here that I'll pull. Yeah, gold plate, gold ends on those that I want to get off. And another finger strip board. Let's see if this one will cooperate. Yeah, that one's cooperating a bit better. So you can see how that copper strip comes right off. This one's a little bit thicker, so copper comes off a little better. These solenoid switches can have little dollops of silver on the connectors. Some folks really like those. I'm not one of those folks. Another ice. This is a, you can hear, that used to be the disk. The smaller hard drives frequently have glass discs, and so when you smash them, it sounds like a little child's toy. But don't open it, because that glass will cut you up. Some ICs to get off of that one. That can go in with the peripherals. Here's another board that can go in with the peripherals. We've got some nice socket mounted ICs, lots of other board mounted ICs on here, some MOSFETs, some tantalum capacitors. I think those are tantalum capacitors there. So I can definitely go as peripheral high grade, or we can pop these off and maybe even still peripheral high grade. That used to be inside a power supply. It was all gunked up with this stuff. And that one's all scorched up. So it looks like those might be tin silver tracings on that. Copyright by Martin Professional, 1992. And there's gold-plated pins here, an IC, more gold-plated pins. Resistors, maybe capacitors. They don't have any codes on this board. And then some sort of tactile switches that look like they might have some gold plated material inside. We'll put that with the process later. It's cloudy, and every now and then it starts to rain, and then the sun comes out, and so I can't tell if I want to leave my sunglasses on or not. We have a aluminum heatsink here with MOSFET still on it. Low grade. So some sort of walkie-talkie maybe a remote, because we have an LCD screen. We have some sort of push buttons here. Peripheral high grade, because we've got a lot of ICs all in here. Yeah, interesting. More low grade stuff. A lot of junk hanging on this. ICs. I mean, I might be able to break it right there, and then this part could go with peripheral high grade, and this could go with the mid grades. Yeah. We'll put it in the take a look at it later pile. Oh, we have a little key hanging out here. I'm assuming that's brass. Yep. Yeah, we can get these ICs off of this board, and it's coated in lacquer, so that's a low grade board. Oh, nice big socket mounted IC here. That'll go in the let's get to it back later. If you've ever done a CRT TV, you know what this is. That's the, what do they call, flyback transformer. But yeah, that came off of an old CRT type cathode ray tube type television. Yeah, some sort of telephone, maybe keyboard type device. We can do peripheral low grade on that. Ooh, there's a whole bunch of ICs, some socket mounted that we'll be able to get off of that. Whole bunch of socket mounted ICs to pull off of that. Hey, stop it. Now this one is very clearly lacquer coated, so this is going to be low grade. I should point out that on some of those peripheral high grades, I will need to clean them up, remove the LCD screens, some of the other junk that's on them before I sell them as peripheral high grade. I could just wait till I open up the tail or lift the tailgate, and usually the stuff just falls right out then. Oh well. Yeah, low grade, low grade. But I suppose I could pull those. There's some more ICs there I could pull before chucking that in the low grades. Low grade. ICs to pull off of here first. And more low grade. Data circuit protector, that's just low grade. Even these are not gold plated. Yeah, LEDs. I'm not quite sure what this was. LED lamp. Oh well, low grade. This is actually an IC chip, but there's nothing else on here of great value, so mid-grade, maybe throw it in with peripheral low grades. Ooh, there's another one that was in a fire, but there's an IC there that we can pull off. I'm going to start putting, apparently there's a few of these, so I'm going to put them in with the ICs that are going to need more work. Even though, you know, I was putting the better grade material in this one, but it's going to fill up pretty quick here at the rate I'm going. More low grade stuff. So it's interesting the way they tied this up with, I don't know, that's let's see if that's brass wire. Brass wire. So these kind of finger strip cards, you can just break those so that they're easier to store. You don't need to tie them up fancy or anything. Truss it up like a turkey. Socket mounted, and then we have an oscillator, socket mounted IC, oscillator, more ICs, MLCCs. So that could go as peripheral, high grade, doesn't have a whole bunch of junk on it. If you pull off the big IC, then peripheral low grade. Chris at boardsort.com would refer to this as circuit board soup. I mean, it's just a mix of all kinds of circuit boards. They have a category for mixed circuit boards that is well below the price of most circuit boards, and that's in order to account for the time that it takes to sort through this mess, as you can see that I'm doing here. Now, with this particular customer, I don't pay this out as mixed boards. I separate it and I pay them for the quality or the grades of boards that I get from the mix. Now, the reason for that is that I get a lot of material from them on a regular basis, and we've agreed to some pretty good rates. So I do this as a way to keep them as a good, happy customer with me. But, you know, if I was just to get a one-off every now and then from folks, then yes, this would be considered a mixed board purchase, and I would just weigh up the whole load and price it out that way. Go peripheral high grade, ICs and such on it. And it looks like this is, that might be, let's check this once. I should put this magnet over on the other side, shouldn't I? Yeah, so that's copper. I'm going to probably pull that off, copper off of there. Some wire. That's the number 1 insulated there. And I have to weigh all this stuff up, so I gotta, after I get stuff separated yet again. This is not the most efficient separating job I've been doing, is it? Because I pay the yard for this material. That's an old board. Those might be tantalum capacitors. I'd have to look at the labeling on them to determine for sure. And then we have some MOSFETs and some other circuits and some resistors. That was an old style tube, vacuum tube that would go on that. Yeah, that's a pretty old board there. And these ICs might be some of the ones with the gold in them. Huh. And look at that. That looks like gold plate on those MOSFETs. And we're going to set you aside. Take a look at you in more detail. There's another one of those guys. Copper toroids, but they're all gunked up with epoxy kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm just throwing that in with low grade. Yeah, we can put that in with the peripheral high grades. Nice gold cornered BGA there. And a lot of nice ICs on there, so that can go in the peripheral high grades. I don't know what that is. Low grade, low grade, more low grade. That looks like that's a copper antenna kind of thing there. Dig into that a little bit. And that's junk. Oh my. That's an old VGA adapter. Oh, that was nice. That's a copper toroid that somebody broke off for me. Whole bunch of little tactile switches there. Ah, there's a e-print. So this was the screen off of a printer, apparently. We'll get that off of the glass, and that can probably go with peripheral high grades once I get all the junk cleaned off of it. Get a rake or something. Some more ICs to take off here. Ooh, look at that. It's another one. We've had quite a few of these now. Should end up with quite a few ICs from this load. So this is an older board here, probably tin silver, and we've got some nice top hat type oscillators. You can't tell if they have gold on the bottom or not. I don't normally keep the oscillators. Ooh, we have Goldini going here. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna set this to the category where I can pull them. That one obviously blue. You can see the scorching. Yeah, we got some interesting older boards here. I could dig those ICs off or leave those on the low grades. Ah, Goldfinger card, slot card hanging out there. Interesting. I've not seen them with that bar on before. I don't recall. Oh, I know. This is you had optical plugs, the optical adapters that would go in there. And those are gold plated. I suppose we could go peripheral low grade because of those. Oops. So we can pull each of these ICs off of here and then low grade. With this one, look, you can see the copper. So you can see some people like to get the copper off of the MOSFETs. To me, that's a little bit more fiddly than I want to mess around with. My friend E-Waste Ben, he likes that term, fiddly. That one might go in. Oh, there's silver mylar. Put you up here though, so I don't lose you. Some thin gold tracing on there. Tiny little board full of tiny little components there. You could probably do peripheral low grade. This was probably some sort of amplifier mixed sound mixer kind of thing. When you get these are pretty common, the sliders on those devices. A bunch of ICs back here that I could think about pulling off. I've had some people ask me, you know, what about these other components, and I don't know. I've tried to figure out what all of these components are made of, and it's really challenging. You have to look up each part number, and then maybe the manufacturers will have that information there, maybe. And so it doesn't do anyone any good for me to go into that kind of detail, because just because it looks like the same thing doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing. Transformer, solenoid switches have the little tiny silver dollops, maybe some copper. Another one of those that you can get the copper off of. I got all kinds of stuff falling down here. There's some sort of connector, but it's got a bunch of ICs and gold edge oscillators and tantalum capacitors. So yeah, we can throw that in with the peripheral high grades. See, this is why you got to go through this stuff, even though it takes some time. Yeah, there's epoxy all over this, so that's low grade. We can pull these ICs off of here. Oops. Wow, that is heavy. Is it copper? Yeah. What do you know? That's a nice slug of copper there. And even these small bits, we're finding some stuff with interesting value in it. So there's another one of those that I want to dig into a little bit, literally. You get the wire off of that. Velcro band. That's copper there. Yeah, that's a little piece of copper there. And another piece of copper there. It always makes these sorts kind of interesting. They can take quite a while, but it's very interesting, some of the stuff that I find. A bunch of these to get, if I want to. I'm going to hang on to these for a little while and maybe pull the copper off. If not, I can always throw them in the low grades. Another set of finger strips that have been, I don't know why they decided to tie them up like that. So there's some gold-plated material on here. This was some sort of remote kind of device, maybe. Anyway, peripheral high grade. Tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to continue to go through this, and if I find some interesting stuff, I'll set it aside and talk specifically to the interesting ones that I set aside, because otherwise we're going to be here for hours. Well, I'll be here for a while anyway, but yeah, if I don't get a move along, I'm going to be here for a long time. I'll see you all with the interesting ones. Now, there were a couple more boards that I thought were pretty interesting. This one, you can see that we have on this side, we have a number of AV jacks here. And then the board itself is actually a really nice peripheral board. We have a lot of ICs, socket-mounted ICs. Those do not feel like EEPROMs. I don't think there's a window underneath there. I don't feel one anyway. There's a bunch of epoxy dip tantalum capacitors. So there's definitely a peripheral high-grade board. I'm going to take off these three big knock-in capacitors. Yeah, capacitors to just to guarantee that there's no issues with this being peripheral high-grade. And I don't know. There might be silver in these guys, but I'm not going to mess with it. Nothing on the back of this thing. So that was one of the interesting boards that we came up with. Now, this is a really interesting find, only because it gives us a chance to, kind of talk about the fun part of doing this when you don't know what something came from. So we look at this board, and we can see that this is a relatively good board, right? We have 1, 2, 3 gold-cornered BGAs. Ooh, 4 gold-cornered BGAs. We have lots of ICs on here. We've got, unfortunately, some junk hanging on here, right? And a battery that needs to come off. And then this was a connector. And funny enough, this was in the pile. And so I'm pretty sure that this was the card that was in this. So I suspect that this was some sort of cable box. One of the higher end kind of cable boxes, something like Comcast would provide. There's no hard drive here, so it's not a DVR. But you can see where you would have had cable coming in. You had your jacks for going out to your TV. You've got HDMI ports, USB ports. So this definitely was some sort of higher end entertainment kind of board device. Now, what are we going to sell it as? Well, I want to get my best value. I think is going to be to sell it as a peripheral high grade board, assuming that it was in fact from some sort of cable kind of box. It definitely would have been a peripheral device. I want to remove these so that I can de-junkify it, and then we'll be able to sell it as a peripheral high grade. We'll take off the heatsink as well, and yeah, then that'll be oh, and the battery. So remove the battery, remove this junk, remove the aluminum heatsink, and I'm very comfortable putting that in with the peripheral high grades. Well, these kind of pickups are a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy digging through all of the material, and you're just seeing all the different kind of boards that show up. It takes a bit of time, and no, it's not the most efficient thing for me to do, but I really do enjoy it. And I hope you enjoyed the video as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out the videos that are popping up on either side of the screen that are going to take you to more great Shark Scrapper content. And if you haven't subscribed, well, that round button in the middle, that'll help you to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode of Shark Scrapper. Have a great day, everybody.